To be honest, if you just have silt, sand, and clay particles, you actually have dirt. Sunlight is the #1 most important input to a successful garden. I would argue soil is #2.
Yeah, and if you mess up your soil, which I know you've had experience with in the past, not that you personally messed it up.
Oh, I did. I did.
It can entirely change the trajectory of your garden. I've bought soil before that made me think I was a bad gardener. It turns out it was just bad soil.
Yes, 100%. So back in the day, I had purchased some soil in bulk because I had a lot of raised beds to fill of what was called a topsoil compost mix. And really, it worked.
Yeah,
for the first season, it worked. The problem is that summer, that fall crop was absolutely terrible. It was cakey, it was very clay. And so now what you really want to talk about is how do you even know what good soil is, Jacques? So you've got, we have an ex-geology PhD sitting right over here. So why don't you take this?
So the thing with soil is that it needs to hold water, it needs to hold nutrients, and it needs to hold air.
Yes.
If you do not have the ability for any of those, you're not going to have a good time. If you're talking about raised bed soil or container soil, generally it's actually a soilless media. This is something like peat or coconut coir or wood chips or compost, but you need that drainage element. It's gonna allow oxygen and air to get in your soil, and that's usually things like perlite, pumice, vermiculite. And beyond that, when you get into the in-ground soil, it gets a little bit different. That's a true living soil.
Yeah, so what you get into there are basically the 3 major particles that compose any type of soil, which would be a clay particle, which are the smallest ones, silt particles, which are the second smallest, and then sand, which is the largest particle. The perfect soil, in theory at least, would be what's called loam, 1/3 of each of those particles. Now, Jacques, how many soils out there, just magically you go into your yard, it's perfect loam?
I highly doubt it's gonna be high.
I've never seen one,
Yeah,
personally.
And the thing about that is that clay is really good at holding nutrients, it's good at holding water. Silt is kind of in the middle of sand and clay. It does hold a little bit, but it allows drainage. And without enough sand, it's gonna just sit too wet and heavy and you're never gonna have oxygen.
Yeah.
That's why you want that little blend. But there is a secret ingredient that helps all soil. And what is that?
That's organic matter. To be honest, if you just have silt, sand, and clay particles, you actually have dirt. You don't really have soil. So when you add in organic matter in the form of compost or fertilizers or even mulch on top, eventually what you start to get is something called soil, which is not dirt. It is basically dirt plus the entire ecosystem of life that is within and underneath that soil, which of course is supporting the life that we're trying to grow above the soil.
Yeah, and there is a saying that is usually coined for organic growing, but it's feed the soil, not the plants. Because if you have healthy soil, it will provide the nutrients for your plants. That is how it works in nature. Nobody's out there fertilizing the trees they're growing out there, right? It's all about that balance with the soil life.